When preparing to rent out a property, there are many actions that landlords or property managers need to take. These actions may include listing the property, evaluating rental applications, finding the right tenant, completing lease agreements, and more. One of the key components of this process is carrying out background checks and tenant screenings. These measures are critical because they enable landlords to confirm that potential tenants have no criminal records. Also, to assess their tenants' income, to evaluate their creditworthiness, and more. But what happens more often than not is that some people, when trying to find a new place to live, they may attempt to deceive landlords by using fake pay stubs to falsely demonstrate that they have enough income to afford the rent. In this video, we're gonna go over what those documents are and the best way to identify the fake ones. The complete guide to deciphering fake pay stubs. As you may be familiar with, a false pay stub is a fabricated document used by an applicant to provide false evidence about their income. Pay stubs are generally used because they offer information such as the job title, the tenant's income in that pay period, the actual income, their year-to-date tax deductions, and much more. However, there are many cases where the landlord's income requirements are higher than the applicant's income. And this is when some applicants may turn to fraudulent documents. How to spot fake pay stubs. Although spotting fake income verifications is not an exact science, there are some ways that can generally help in the process. So let's go over the easiest ways to notice if a tenant is using a fraudulent document. Rounded numbers. One of the quickest ways to tell if an income document is fake is to check if all the numbers have been rounded. Usually, paychecks do not come out to a perfectly rounded number that has no extra dollars or cents. That's why this is one of the quickest ways to detect if an applicant's document is fake. It's important to make sure that your applicant's earnings are not rounded to the nearest hundred or thousands, because this is a clear signal of fraudulence. This is not very common, however, because it is obvious that paychecks should not have perfectly rounded numbers. Appearance. Another quick way to tell whether or not a document is real is by its appearance. Typically, income documents are created by people like accountants and HR staff. These professionals are most likely not going to make a document that seems messy and hard to understand. So when reviewing the applicant's pay stubs, make sure that it looks professional, by looking at the smallest details. All of the numbers and text should be completely legible, with no blurriness whatsoever. Also, it is important to pay close attention to the formatting of the document. All of the numbers should be lined up and the characters should also be properly formatted, differentiating zeros and O's. Another way to tell if a document that you have received is fake is if there is no difference between the number 0 and the letter O. As shown here, the number should be slightly taller and skinnier than the capital letter. This is a mistake that should never be done by any professional, and is a quick way to distinguish between a fake and a real document. Consistency. Although requesting a pay stub is one of the most common ways to verify income, there are many other ways that work just as well. For example, there could be a discrepancy between the social security number given in the pay stub and the one given on the application. So make sure you look for consistency in all the documents. Confirming with the company. The last and most consistent way to tell if a pay stub is fake is to confirm with the company that they have listed. Typically, landlords request that applicants provide a reference from their current employer, because if the landlord has this, they can contact this reference to make sure that the applicant actually works at this company. You can also confirm details like the applicant's start date, their job title, and of course, their income. Now that we know some of the ways that a fake pay stub can be identified, let's look into some other forms of income verification that help landlords ensure that applicants can cover their monthly rent. Alternate methods to verify. Although requesting a pay stub is one of the most common ways to verify income, there are many other ways that work just as well. So let's go over some of the best alternatives that help lower the risk of receiving fake pay stubs. W-2 tax form. As you may know, a W-2 is a tax document that must be completed by all employers for all of their employees. On this form, Employers report the total annual wages paid to their employees. This is a very quick way to get a full picture of how much the applicant actually earns. It's similar to the pay stub. However, these forms will not be available for any self-employed individual. For these individuals, the closest thing to a W-2 is a 1099 form. This form shows proof of income for sources other than employment, like personal business assets or royalties. Bank statements. Another way to verify income is to use bank statements. Bank statements can easily be evidence of adequate, steady deposits made to the applicant's account. Social Security benefits statement. A benefit verification letter is a letter from the Social Security Administration that details any monthly benefits. This is a very good way for individuals who receive disability, retirement, or supplemental security income to prove their income. Employment references and income letter. The two final ways to verify the income of an applicant is to request a letter from an employer reference. The way that it works is that the employer is sent a form that should be filled out with the details of an applicant's income. This way, the income verification is coming directly from the employer and can typically be trusted more than other documents. All right, so at this point, you can probably see that verifying the income of an applicant is an essential part of making sure that you're going to have a good tenant. And since a fake pay stub is easy to come across, it is very important to ensure its validity. So that's it for now. And remember, if you want to get access to a lot more content like this, such as how to send a new property manager introduction letter, and a lot more templates, check out DoorLoop's resources page. There's a link right there in the description, okay? And while you're at it, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. So remember, stay away from fake pay stubs, fake documents, fake everything. And as always, happy renting.